Get yourself settled into a comfortable upright position. Start the Songjing practice, Songjing breathing. With each exhalation, Song, this deep softening and settling, a release, a suppleness in the body as you let go. And with each inhalation, a deepening of the stillness, a greater sense of clarity. Taking the time to clear your mind. Softening down through your body. You can release that space between your eyebrows that tends to like to fold up in a frown. Soothing your forehead, softening around the eyes. If you're able to, also relieving that sense of tension that usually begins to cultivate behind the eyes. Softening your cheeks, your jaw, any tension that you might be holding in your lips or your tongue. Letting go of your throat, the sides of your neck, the back of your neck. And allow that freedom to release your head upward, as though your head becomes light, freeing your neck, decompressing your upper spine slightly. Softening around the shoulders, releasing the tops of the shoulders. Softening open that space in the front, this aspect of the shoulder that connects to the chest. Softening open the space in the back, allowing your shoulder blades to soften away from your spine and to release down your back. Also releasing any grip that you may have down below, pulling your shoulders down. Let all of that go. As you release your shoulders, feel your elbows sink as though they grow heavy. Softening your forearms and your wrists and your hands. A wave of softness all the way from the top of the shoulder down to the fingertips. Softening your chest, your upper, continuing to release your neck and the crown of the head upward. As you soften your chest, allow the extra energy to sink down to the belly. Notice that it becomes easier to breathe. Soften your rib side, sides of your abdomen, and then your lower back. As much as you're able to, releasing your lower back. Make sure that you are using the proper sitting posture that we've been talking about. Releasing your glutes, your hips, your thighs, around the knees. If you're sitting, this should be relatively easy. In a sitting position that does not allow you to release this area of your body easily, then definitely change your position. Just a few more breaths, softening through, settling into this deep quiet inside. And then when you feel ready, getting your hands soft and warm. Softening the crown of the head. Make sure your palms stay relaxed and easy, but don't allow them to push into your head. You don't want to add tension to your neck. Also, letting go of your shoulders as best you can. Allow your thumb to trace that line at the base of the skull. Remembering the level of pressure that you're looking for. Just enough to sink below the skin. Letting your awareness settle into that space between the skin and the bone. Feeling more and more this membrane sheath wrapping your body. We have to become aware of that space if we want to engage it. Softening all the way around the neck, along the spine, and especially that point at the base of the neck, below cervical vertebra 7. The great hammer point. Many people during this time of the year, with the spring winds, at least in the northern hemisphere where I'm at, the rising of the spring energy, the wind, often a little bit of cold, a little bit of sun. This gets people to strip off of their warm clothing so they can soak up the sun, but then leaves them exposed to these cold winds that suddenly come. So between that and the ease of frustration and rising energy at this time of year, lots of people end up with stiff neck. And so if that's you in any context, please spend extra time warming and releasing, softening the channels and the body in this area. Take your time. And before I begin on the face, as I do in every class, I'd like to welcome anybody who's joining us for the first time. Please do check down below for a link to a training video, an introductory video for this particular set. It will teach you what we're doing, the right way to get benefits, what we're trying to get out of it. There's also a link to a list of the movements and repetitions if that works better for you as well. But to everybody who's here, welcome. Even those of you watching this in the future. Do we have flying cars yet? Feeling the warmth, the vitality of your palms, soaking into the space around your eyes, softening, also behind your eyes, letting go. The warmth and the softness of your hands communicates directly with the tissues. And if you're paying attention, you can follow those sensations in, and it will lead you to that space beneath the skin, this layer we're trying to connect with. Softening and opening. Always letting go between each movement If you find that tension accumulates in your shoulders or your hands, then having that tiny moment of a pause between each movement can be very helpful. I've been trying to remember to add it in. So if I forget, then you can remember for yourself. Again, the face likes to compress and pull itself into the space. So emphasize the parts of the movements that's spreading whichever direction your face tends to pull and tighten. So not all parts of the circle will have the same amount of pressure or intensity, so to speak. But your awareness is always in that layer, settling into the fascia, into this membrane, this space in between. Moving at a speed that feels as though it helps you to soften and to circulate the fluids beneath. As you soften that space just in front of the ear, remember that it can be useful to open your jaw just enough to open that space. You'll feel it move as you open your jaw. And of course, it'll be different for everybody. So find out how much you need to open your mouth to help open that space to your hands. Without adding tension, just helping to make room. Remember, as you rub in front of and now on top of the ear, you also have 1 or 2 fingers behind the ears working these areas. And so don't just focus on the top, but also be aware of what's going on in the back. And as a reminder, I know that some people are not comfortable touching their hair or touching their face with their hands. And if that's the case, it won't have the same impact, but you can make the same circle once your hands are nice and warm, and hover your hands close enough to your face so that you feel the warmth of your hands. And then with your awareness, trace the path that your hands are making through your face or through your scalp. And that will at least help generate some circulation and awareness, kind of like you're giving yourself a chi bath, which of course becomes more effective as your body opens and you're more capable of moving chi. For those of you who do decide to put your hands on your skin, a reminder again to take note of the direction that your face likes to compress, and you're emphasizing the parts of the circle that spread open away from those qualities. And everyone is very different, and so you want to make sure that you are healing and balancing whatever your habitual tendency is to express emotion on your face. Always taking the time to genuinely settle, especially if you've spent time on your face and head. Wait for that sense of settling and releasing down through the body. Your awareness deepens as your breath follows all the way down into the belly, the back, the sides. Not forcing your breath, simply letting go, making space. Feeling into that space beneath the palms, between the navel and the spine. The oven's off.
It is.
Thank you. Softening open the front of the shoulder. Easing open, especially here, this lung 1, lung 2 points. But anything that is contracting and pulling your shoulder forward, we want to help that release outward and downward toward the hand.
That's weird. And I suspect that this alone might not be enough.
Sure, it's difficult. So Mel recommending this kind of shape where you soften over and let the shoulders go down the back. But I suspect there's some percentage of the people that are watching this that have never watched shoulder movement and talk about in a massage class.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have to get into it. I was just wondering what your thoughts were about that. Like, if
Yeah.
you felt like this was enough, or if there.
Well, it's
For
enough
people
to
who-
soften this, but it's not enough to correct the shoulders. They have to do more than just soften the front. Yeah,
That's what I thought.
yeah. But we do also want to soften the front.
I'm noticing a lot of tension in the solar plexus that I think is driven, at least in part, to that
Sure.
rolling forward of the shoulder,
Yeah.
because there's all of this pressure.
It forces all this collapsing.
Yeah.
It puts tons of pressure on the heart, and not literally tons, but lots of pressure on the heart. Hundreds of pounds of pressure. I remember reading, I was shocked just by sitting like this.
What? Hundreds of pounds?
Yeah, because it's this force directed toward these small vessels, compressing them from all
gosh.
sides. It's not just the weight of the body, but there's a compression force that happens because we sit like this, and it forces the heart to work really, really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Motivation for me to fix that.
Yeah,
It really does make a huge difference.
it makes a huge difference. Yeah. Many of the people watching this will know that I suffered from a lot of heart issues as a kid growing up. And so I'm always hyper aware of anything that puts extra pressure on the heart in an unhealthy manner.
Mm.
Please being gentle. And today the theme is clearing and quieting the mind. And why is that?
Because that's the first thing we do.
Because that's the first thing we do. But today is a holiday. It's one of my favorite holidays during the year. Today is Pie Day, the day where you celebrate by eating pie, because it is March 14th, 3.14, at least the way that in the United States we put them on the calendar, which is the beginning of the mathematical number for pi. And so it's an unofficial day to celebrate mathematics and clarity of intellect and pi. And so I felt like it would be a good way to celebrate, to emphasize this nurturing and healing of the mind, not by filling it with information, that happens elsewhere, but rather by creating a healthy space within which the intellect can function. And we do that by making the mind empty, not filling it up, rather than chasing thoughts and obsessing and exhausting ourselves. We allow for a space of clarity and even new information, inspiration, insight. That only happens in the space of openness, softness. And the way that we can practice that here is by constantly coming back to the body, not thinking about what you're doing necessarily. But if you notice that your mind is wandering away, that is your mind gripping. It's a kind of agitation. It's a tensing of your mind, and it begins to fill up with stuff that's making up. And what you want is for the mind to be here and clear, present and empty and soft, not using its energies up by gripping and trying to do things. So as you practice, you simply allow your awareness, as usual, to settle into your body, feeling that space. And today make a special emphasis, a special attempt to continuously come back by letting go of whatever it is that's distracting you. Continuously coming back to this quality of clarity, of letting go, of being soft and very awake. A kind of vibrant clarity. That is your task for today.
So eat lots of sugar.
That's right.
I don't know about you, but sugar doesn't bring me much clarity.
We'll also work on the belly after this.
I guess it's all about balance. Balancing the pie with the clarity. We don't want to be too clear.
That's right. You don't want to be too crusty.
Or too crusty. Food for thought.
Oh my gosh. Easing open, returning and returning. Softening at the base of the thumb. Feeling that space between the skin and the bone, spreading out across these points. Here is the lung channel spreading up the thumb. And again, if you're unsure of which points we're doing, there is that list down below that you can consult. I recommend locating the points online separately so you have a really good sense of what we're aiming for each time we practice. Research is also a good way to honor Pi Day.
Oh, maybe today would be a good study day for us.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. I'll just keep reminding you. If you find yourself distracted, don't pull your mind away. Don't fight the distraction. That only makes it more likely for you to become distracted again in the future. Soften around the distraction. Lose interest. Relax your mind back into the present moment. Learn how to be present with a soft mind. If you only learn about presence through tension, then trying to be here, it becomes exhausting. You can't sustain that.
One of the things that's been helpful for me is to think about, or not think about it, but to just feel the thought.
Mm-hmm.
Because so much of the resistance creates more resistance. And so just feeling it, that's all it takes.
What does it feel like to you?
I guess it depends on like the quality of the inner sensation, but oftentimes it's like a kind of contraction that I feel in the mind. And if I'm resistant to it, say it's a distracting thought, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to think about that right now, then that creates even more contraction.
Right.
And so kind of just allowing the contraction to happen, I guess is what I mean when I say feeling the thought, just like allowing that movement to pass. And it can kind of feel like you're getting away with something if you're conditioned to resist thought.
Sure.
Wait a minute, I'm not supposed to be feeling this.
That's
I'm
right.
supposed to be quote unquote getting rid of it somehow.
That's really funny.
But that seems to be the way, like actually just feeling it.
That's right. Yeah, because it's coming through. You might as well notice it.
It's already there.
It's already there. Yeah. That's right. It would be like if your stomach started gurgling and you were like, no,
Yeah.
it's not happening. Or why must you gurgle? Instead you go, oh, my stomach's gurgling.
Yeah.
And then you just move on.
Yeah. So a lot of it for me is learning not to label the sensation, just in general, as like good or bad. Or like if it's a contraction, I tend to, my mind tends to label it as, you know, bad, distracting, unwanted, whatever. But it's just it's as neutral as can be if you just see it for what it is, I guess.
That's right. Because in real life, everything that's happening is neutral. We only add the judgment to it.
Right.
Yeah. Good advice. Feeling into these points, your awareness soaking into the body. Simply staying here, noticing what's going on. And that's all. And as Mel is mentioning, to be distracted, to generate a whole flight of fancy, takes energy. It's a kind of tensing of the mind. And because the mind and the body are one flow, one process through Qi, the more aware we can become of how we are through our whole body and mind, the easier it becomes to start to notice when our mind is tensing, or if I'm holding my breath, or if something else is happening, because we feel it through our whole body. And if you pay very close attention, like Mel is mentioning, you can actually feel when a thought is coming, even before it forms all the way into some image or worry or something like that. It's a kind of pre-thought. And you can feel it in your mind, in your body, as a kind of resistance. And if you get good at releasing the resistance before it fully forms, it gets easier. The further you are down that path of following a daydream, until you're really invested and committed and hating whatever it is you're imagining, your heart rate's racing, something like that. The further you follow that down, the longer it is and the more difficult it is to release the hold that it has on you. If you hold on to it long enough, it just becomes part of your personality. And so the earlier you can catch that flow as the boulder starts to, it's a pebble falling that slowly hits another boulder, which hits something else, and then we have a whole landslide wiping out your life.
I think Robert Frost wrote a poem using that analogy.
Do you remember it?
Oh, it was like, let me see if I can find it. It's very short.
Okay.
And it's almost perfectly related to what you're saying.
Poems are also good for Pi Day. I get to make up the rules, apparently.
Yeah, I love this one. It's called One Step Backward Taken by Robert Frost. Not only sands and gravels were once more on their travels, by gulping muddy gallons, great boulders off their balance, bumped heads together dully, and started down the gully. Whole capes caked off in slices. I felt my standpoint shaken in a universal crisis. But with one step backward taken, I saved myself from going. A world torn loose went by me, and then the rain stopped and the blowing, and the sun came out to dry me.
That's beautiful.
I just love that image of everything just descending into chaos, but with that one step backward taken.
That's right.
Then the sun comes out.
And everything's fine. Yeah, That's right. Yeah, and for so many people, their lives are consistently descending into that sense of a catastrophic chaos, and it just gets worse and worse and worse on the inside.
Yeah.
And just by developing the skill, small skill, one step back. You don't have to develop all the skills of fighting and catching all of the boulders as they go. If you notice the pebbles starting and you just learn how to soften and you just let yourself not follow that path, even if things are cascading and falling all around you, you can remain present and still, and you avoid all of that chaos inside. Really powerful. Thank you. Yeah, it is my experience that awakening and even staying awake is something that really is just small skills, little bits of clarity and presence. It's nothing huge, and you manage to avoid internal chaos. Settling deep within. At least a few breaths of quiet contemplation. black puer. Delicious. Softening, calming the heart. Again, there isn't a lot of flesh here, so your awareness is simply sinking to that space between the skin and the sternum. But there is still this vibrant layer going on through here. You want to be able to find it and feel it in the same way that you feel the surface of your skin. Softening the solar plexus. You can use your fingertips, your knuckles, your palm, the base of your thumb, which I'm using. You can use 2 hands if that feels nice. Oh, that feels pretty good. I'll do that. But the only way you can know what works best is if you can begin to feel the process of your awareness soaking in and your body responding with softness. I'm doing 36 times in both directions, but if you're finding this particularly helpful, maybe you're feeling especially tight here today, just take as long as it's required. Letting go and letting go. Mind wanders away, you come back, you let go more. The softer you get, the more still you can become inside. They are related. This point between the solar plexus and the navel, halfway between, Zhongguan, it's a wonderful point to nourish. Very useful for this day of clearing the mind, because the spleen and stomach qi in Chinese medicine is part of this intellectual thought, your ability to process clearly, to do something like mathematics. That qi comes from this system, so you want to nourish that. It's also very good if you plan to eat lots of pie. Both very important on Pie Day.
I will be in a coma in a few hours.
We plan to share a pie with friends and watch mathematics movies. I want to make this into a national movement.
Pretty sure somebody's already doing it somewhere.
Somewhere, hopefully. If I was president.
Great pie ambassador.
As your awareness sinks into your body, let it sink deeply enough to touch the tips of the floating ribs through here. So a bit more deeply, perhaps, than usual. But this same layer, the same membrane structure wrapping and surrounding our body, beneath our skin like a wetsuit almost. And then softening through the rib side. This unconditionally friendly awareness, easing any tension here, letting go, making space, You'll find the breath moving through these places as you let them go. Letting everything sink down, gathering and accumulating toward the navel, toward the inside of the body. If your mind wanders away, soften around the distraction, bring it back. Let it fall back. If you try to control your mind with your head, your chi rushes upward to your head. If instead you calm your mind, you soften your body and you let your awareness take an interest in what's going on down below, your chi will sink down and your awareness will start to take root deeper in your body. As your spiral gets smaller and smaller, allow your awareness to soak into that space between the navel and the spine, feeling into it as best you can. And just pause for a moment as you breathe. See what it feels like to allow your awareness to accumulate in one spot. Pay attention to the feelings you get as your awareness soaks into your body, either in this fascial layer that we're talking about, or in this space in the dantian inside the belly. For many people, they feel pressure, movement, but often great heat. And in fact, as the awareness accumulates and accumulates effortlessly, you have to be soft and just let your mind rest inside. That sense of great heat is often called like lighting the furnace. It's a process within the healing that you can look forward to.
Sorry.
It is greatly helpful for meditative practice. And it's lighting the furnace in the oven, which is particularly good for Pi Day. Remember to keep your arms and shoulders soft. If this starts to feel exhausting, then please do just give your arms a break. Find a way to soften. But if you can, especially during the practice, if you're noticing it's tiring you out, then see if you can find a way to soften in the practice. You might be gripping twice as hard as you need to. Allowing your awareness to soak in the warmth from your hands and your palms continuously softening. You want your hands to get softer and softer through this set. That is one of the main functions of this practice. when you notice your mind wandering away, don't miss your opportunity to start to transform how you deal with distractions. If you're distracted, notice the distraction, and first, don't react, just notice it. And then soften around it, lose interest. Coming back. And then if a few seconds later your mind wanders away again, as soon as you can, notice it, don't react, lose interest. Your mind will drift back to what's going on. Over time, it will get better and better at staying. Just like your muscles, your whole body will start to soften because that becomes the new level of conditioning. That's what it's learning to do. It's learning to respond to agitation with softness. For too many of us, we respond to tension with more tension. We get frustrated at our tension. It hurts, so we tighten up around the tension. We do that with everything. Somebody's upset at us, so we get upset back at them. We have to learn to disentangle that process, at least in ourselves, and then hopefully we start to spread that to the rest of the world, which definitely needs to learn that lesson more than ever. Don't you think? Mm-hmm. Softening the space behind the knees. Remember that all of these videos are kept up, the whole 100-day series. It's all over on Patreon. And after all of this is over, after a little while, I'll just make the whole thing available on YouTube. And so please do try to follow through the whole series. It's a teaching series. We try to instruct as much as we can about Chinese medicine basics, certain aspects of it through this set. So hopefully people find it helpful. Another very important point for Pi Day, stomach 36, the top of this musculature next to the shin bone here.
Before or after we eat pie?
Preferably both. Very useful for nourishing the digestion, but it's also useful for brightening the mind because, again, it's the same qi. It's this lifting, ascending quality, this clear qi. Lots of people, even if they eat normal food, they feel foggy-headed and exhausted afterward. And that's a very clear symptom of deficiency of the spleen and stomach in Chinese medicine, this earth qi. And this is what, well, this is maybe my favorite point for strengthening that. And then spleen 9 on the inside, another good point. And gallbladder 34 on the outside, a little higher and to the outside of the stomach 36 point. And again, all of these are listed down below next to the introductory video in the comment section. If you want to look them up to figure out exactly where they are for practice. If you have specific questions, please feel free to comment, and I will address them as best I can. Notice when your mind becomes cloudy and that it feels different than when your mind is clear and open and relaxed. There's a kind of crisp, vibrant presence versus this sort of murky, tense space. Don't just use your mind to notice it. Notice the change in your whole body, and that will help to wake you up. It's actually very uncomfortable to be distracted and unhappy.
ZhiCheng helped me realize that directly in kind of a cool way. A long time ago, he held a book up in front of me, and he was helping me learn to release my neck because there was so much tension in it. And yeah, he just does this thing where he can touch you a certain way and it releases tension. It's really amazing. And
It's
anyway,
amazing.
He did that, and suddenly the words on the page became so much clearer.
That's right. Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For any of you who have the opportunity to come and study with Daoist Master ZhiCheng, who is at the monastery where we live in Washington in the States, the links are down below. I highly recommend people study with him. It's not just the knowledge that he can share, but he's actually developed skills that help you open spaces that are difficult for you to open on your own. But he has to be there to help you. There's a technique called wei qi, which is like feeding qi, like feeding a baby bird.
Mm.
And he can guide you through a movement in a way that you wouldn't find on your own.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable. Part of the transmission process. I'm constantly surprised that more people aren't rushing over to come practice with him. Although now that he's retiring, people will soon lose their chance.
Mm-hmm.
Be stuck with me. Oh, the poverty. As you soften that point in the back of your calf, remember that you want to keep your hands very soft. Don't start gripping. Your fingers get softer and softer through this set. And with your awareness, this is one of those points where your mind soaks in a bit deeper toward the bone. You can feel the space between the skin and the muscle, but also see if you can find a bit deeper in the body with your awareness. Like your lower back, this whole area is one that is thick with this fascial layer. It gives us that springy quality. Like kangaroos hopping, they're not really using their musculature. They're just using the springiness of their fascia. They just let it stretch and it bounces them, so they jump. And so they can go really fast with very little effort.
It's really neat.
It's super neat, yeah. And I was studying boxing. My instructor was constantly wanting me to train up this area. That's why he wanted us to like do bouncing and jump rope and things like that. Because if you're constantly springing off this area, it makes it very bouncy feeling. Very hard on my ankles though. My heart wasn't healthy enough at the time. I couldn't.
Yeah, it seems like one of those things that could be damaging if you're really tense.
Well, it's not an art of relaxation. Maybe at the higher levels, but for most people who are studying it, it's a gripping and holding. You spend your life getting punched in the head. It's not a health practice necessarily. I have a lot of concussions in my past due to that kind of stuff. Brain rattling around. Forgot to smack my other foot. Trying to be a good example and sit on something. Do you need it? I just heard that other people were also sitting on the ground and it was making their hips tense. So I'm trying to demonstrate that you can sit on something that lifts your hips a bit off the ground, and it might make it a bit easier for you to fold and soften your legs. Softening your legs, don't grip with your thighs as you sink down. Continue letting your legs lengthen that way. And as you go down, continue to lengthen your spine through the top. Don't pull down to your legs. You're just going around the circle and opening around through your lower back, along your spine, through the back of your neck, all the way to your heels. Softer and softer. Notice I'm not holding my breath, not gripping my body. Don't clench your face. Don't tighten your hands. You're just letting go. Remember to keep your legs soft. Lengthening your spine, top of your neck, through the top of your head, rounding around the circle, bracing with your feet without causing too much tension. Reach only as far as feels comfortable, just like always. Don't begin to add tension into this process. This is only a softening open, whatever it looks like for you today. Every day will be different. So if you only fall forward to your knees, and that for you is a lengthening, that is perfect. And if you try to go further and it starts to add tension, then you've gone too far. If you like to lay flat, of course, you are welcome to do so, letting your body soften. Remember to put something beneath your knees if you think that will help you soften. Support your back, support the back of your head, your elbows. Find a way to be comfortable. The goal is simply to be able to let go deeply. As you feel your body soften to the ground, allow your awareness to spread out through your whole body. Perhaps you can become especially aware of this thin layer that we've been nourishing, this structure around our whole body, the bottom of the feet, back of the neck, top of the head. Feel it warm, soft. At some point, if you'd like to, you're welcome to return to a seated position. Of course, you can always stay lying down if you're enjoying it. And just for a moment, allow your awareness to consolidate in that space between the navel and the spine as best you can. In the very least, simply feeling your navel or the mingmen, the point on the spine opposite the navel. And then, without losing a sense of contact with that point, let your awareness spread through your body. Again, especially into the layer of the fascia, or that space beneath the skin. And then out into the room around you, feeling the space with a sense of kindness and friendliness. Thank you very much. If there's any questions, feel free to ask. I will hang out here. Sometimes it takes a few minutes for it to come through. But either way, I hope that everybody enjoys a lovely Pi day, nourishes their mind with clarity and openness, emptiness, making room for new ideas. Empty your mind, but fill your belly with Pi. Is that you doing that? Thank you for doing it. Looks like it's just us. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your practice.